Hey guys, Zen here, and there have been 20 seasons to date that released as an operation. Operation Chimera in year 3, Operation Void Edge in year 5, and Operation Black Ice in year 1 all led the charge with Operation in the title. Year 6 ended that, with every season removing Operation from the title, and even Demon Vale in year 7 did not launch as an operation. But in year 7 season 2, Rainbow Six Siege returns with Operation Vector Glare, and one of the leads on the dev team said it just feels so Siege. So it's back for good. This video will look at every big change that's coming in this season, and there's one operator who you probably haven't touched in 3 years that will be a critical pick moving forward. There's also a way that you can unlock the operators you don't have completely for free, which is a first for Rainbow Six Siege, and so you can easily fill out that roster. And guys, thanks to Ubisoft for sponsoring the video, and to see everything here, click the link in the description and check out this new season before it drops on June 7th. For year 7 season 2, in Vector Glare, we're getting Sens, the new Belgian attacker with the ROU projector system gadget. It's a wheel that travels in a straight line, leaving behind droplets that project a wall of light, obscuring the enemy's line of sight, and after a short time they self-destruct, which makes Sens incredibly versatile on the battlefield. Also, midway through the season, and for the very first time, we'll battle it out on a TDM map set in Greece, called Close Quarter. And this is only the beginning. There's a way for you to get your hands on some of the operators you don't currently have through the Squad Up program. Essentially, if you're an active Siege player and you recruit a few of your buddies who aren't currently active in the game, you'll be rewarded with a Squad Leader pack. And that Squad Leader pack holds one of the 4 year 6 operators that you'll get entirely for free. To get the pack, you just play 5 games in any game mode and you'll get your reward. And if you've already got the operator, then it'll be converted into battle points. And it's a super compelling way to get players back into Siege. If you're the returning player, you'll get an operator from year 4 or 5, which includes some absolutely essential picks like Ace or Mozzie. There's really never, ever been a way to just be handed operators like this, and I think it's the perfect way to get your old squad back playing together and to get them caught up by adding a few operators that they may have missed. But next up is the definitive way to master your aim with every single weapon in Rainbow Six Siege. I myself have always needed to practice up on raising my crosshairs ever so slightly from chest level to head level, and it's finally possible because in Operation Vector Glare, the shooting range is here, and there's a few tricks to get the most out of it. So here it is, the big round target where you can fire off rounds and see where they land. Move around, jiggle peek, crouch spam, whatever you want to work on, make it happen. But if you look over to the board on the left, you can actually shoot at some of the prompts and change things up, hitting any of the ranges on the left-hand side, and the target will physically push itself either further away or closer to you, and you can get familiar with that distance. Of course, if you want a completely blank slate, you can always clear the board and refresh, but holding angles and knowing how much recoil control you'll need at each distance is key, and this allows for that in a totally safe zone, which is huge. But moving over through the doors to the right-hand side, and you'll find an operator-based dummy where you can physically see how much damage is being done per round. And on top of that, you can move the dummy back and forth as well. So it's a much more realistic take on aim training, and even for the short amount of time I spent with it, I genuinely felt like I was gaining the muscle memory to increase my accuracy. So now, after a big patch with lots of weapon changes, you can go in and really get a feel for the change before you commit in ranked. And sure, training grounds is an option, but there is still that lethal threat, and it just isn't as consistent. So yeah, for me, a simple and effective way to stay on top of every weapon for every operator, and I'm sure it'll be added to, and there will be more enhancements as time goes on. And so next up, when was your last round with this operator? Or with this one? These two operators have been some of the least picked and least used operators in Rainbow Six Siege for the past few years, and it's because in the perfect meta, both Warden and Glaz can be the most oppressive and unbearable opponents to face. But a storm is brewing, and Sens, the new attacker here in Vector Glare, has called both of them into action because only these two operators can see through the ROU projector gadget, and this meta is tailor-made for them. The ROU is a wheel that rolls on the ground and deploys a beam of light in a straight line. If it reaches a wall, it'll take a turn and continue to deploy a light in a straight line, and with how many walls and angles there are on the maps in Siege, you end up creating these unique sight lines that haven't ever been possible before. It's like pulling a curtain across the stage and cloaking whatever you're up to, and the attackers can use this to their advantage unless there's a Warden involved. Warden is the only defender who can see through this, and because it covers much more area than a traditional smoke grenade, it gives attack a false sense of safety, and so they'll scramble around behind it while Warden watches their every move. I cannot tell you how many times we were taken out by a Warden after using this gadget, and it actually got to the point where we as content creators agreed not to use Warden or Glaz for a session because they dominated the strategy. But Sens is solid, and also brings the brand new POF-9 assault rifle rifle that, to me, mostly resembles Jaeger's 416. If you know, you know. The weapon has lower damage and a moderate fire rate, but has a very high magazine with 50 rounds and access to every single assault rifle optic in the game. Added to this is the 417 DMR, a Gon 6, a hard breach charge, and claymores, and so this operator is actually really well rounded. Now, since Year 7 began and Azami was introduced, you've been hearing about a new class of operator called the Architects. Basically, an operator that remodels the objective and creates new gameplay, and Sens doesn't actually remodel anything, but does manipulate the sightlines and shifts the focus of a round. On attack, reworking sightlines by unfolding all of defense's hard work is what I'd consider an architect would look like for them, and Sens does this with a unique gadget and a creative strategy. And even if Sens is the new attacker, the real upgrade this season is for Glaz. Now, guys, other than shields, there is no longer an operator strictly forced into single-shot weapons. Glaz was the only one, until now. They gave Glaz the Bearing 9. On the surface, you might not think it's that big of a deal, but between the introduction of a gadget that only he can see through and the other lethal equipment in his loadout, Glaz may just be the most dominant, pure fragging operator in Rainbow Six Siege. The most powerful DMR in the game, frag grenades, long-range and short-range scopes, and the automatic Bearing 9 secondary, and Glaz is made to shred defenders. Glaz has never really had utility like most of the other operators. He can't stop grenades or move silently or open a wall. Glaz is made to get kills, but in Rainbow Six Siege, where one-shot headshot is king, automatic weapons rule the land, and he actually never had one before. And so if you're hunting roamers and one jumps out for a gunfight, you now have the firepower to eliminate them with a weapon that has gotten better over time. I love this for Glaz. Again, single shot only operators don't get picked, and it's for good reason. You aren't even playing the same game. And so I think Glaz will be a great pick in Vector Glare, and possibly even a must pick, because he's the only one who can suppress Warden and go head to head with him. Moving on, we're speaking about TDM, because as you may already know, this game mode is where you'll get the brand new map in Rainbow Six Siege. What you might not know is that this is the best way to experience Team Deathmatch in Siege, and that it is our first map based in Greece. TDM in Siege has been asked for years before it finally came to the game, but when it launched, there were only a handful of maps to play it on. And even though these maps were the most compatible with the mode, there were still from the ground up Siege maps with drone holes and the unique architecture that makes a Siege map a Siege map. Close Quarter is very different in that it's a TDM map in Siege, and it works so well for a game mode with respawns and no gadgets. At first, I was a little apprehensive about a season with only a new map offering for Team Deathmatch, but I can see now why it was necessary. TDM is a mode that is being taken serious, and it needs its own dedicated maps that work specific to that mode, and they get it just right here. This can never be a traditional Siege map, and it should also be noted that for any future maps, it's a good sign that they'll never be made with TDM in mind. Traditional R6 gameplay will be paired with traditional R6 maps, and TDM can be its own beast with its own maps, and I think if you haven't played much TDM, this map is an incredible first go. Now, if you are someone coming into Siege for the first time, they have finally added the operator how-tos, and they're actually far more accessible than we thought. So, in the operator selection screen, if you're checking out an operator for the first time, you'll notice a new operator how-to option. They supply a handful of short videos that show the cause and effect of the gadget, and even secondary gadgets if you're unfamiliar. It's like bite-sized lessons that help familiarize with what's going on. But these can also be viewed in-game, which wasn't something I ever thought would be possible. In the start menu, you'll notice your how-tos even while you're playing. And so if you're like super new and need a quick tip as you go along, you can view them instantly. Even if you and I, like the ones ultra familiar with the game, don't see a ton of value here, it's the exact opposite for someone playing their first or second match. It's also super good for someone returning to the game and playing with an operator they haven't seen before. It might surprise you that you no longer need to hold your friend's hand and teach them every little thing about the latest operators, because they can kind of do that for themselves now, and that's a big weight you no longer have to carry. Of course, the more advanced tactics and ranked strats are still important, but the fundamental use of every operator and gadget in the game is now instantly available, which helps to guide those players through. And of course, the bow on top is the fully featured privacy mode, or better known as streamer mode. It's here in Operation Vector Glare. It's simple enough. Use a nickname, hide your avatar, hide the names of the people in the lobby, and a few other settings to protect your privacy. You don't need to be a content creator or a streamer to use this. It's available to everyone. And yes, third-party apps and overlays have worked with Ubisoft to protect you there as well, and so you should be totally good to use these settings and protect your privacy while you play Rainbow Six Siege. I love this. And guys, to recap, Vector Glare comes with Sens, the new attacker from Belgium who brings the ROU projector gadget. It deploys a wall of light, blocking players' sightlines, and makes Sens an incredibly versatile operator. And again, mid-season, we'll see the addition of Close Quarter, the new TDM-only map in Rainbow Six Siege. But this new season releases on June 7th, and so to get started, click the link in the description and check out Operation Vector Glare for yourself. Thanks again to Ubisoft for sponsoring the video, and guys, I'll see you in the next one. Hey, I'm out.